Most men fear being alone because they equate solitude with emptiness. But a Sigma male sees it differently. He fears losing himself in the wrong company. This isn't a romanticized idea. It's rooted in psychology and history. Great thinkers like Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, and Henry David Thoreau often thrived in solitude because it gave them space to think deeply, innovate, and live authentically. For the Sigma male, time alone doesn't weaken him, it sharpens him. Every day without unnecessary attachments becomes an investment in self-mastery. While the average man believes he's missing something by not having constant companionship, the Sigma knows he's building something: his mind, his mission, his independence. He's in no rush for attention, approval, or love that comes with conditions, because he understands that true connection must enhance his life, not chain it down. Society often tells men they're incomplete without a partner, but the Sigma flips the script. The longer he walks alone, the stronger and more self-reliant he becomes. While others rush to fill silence with distractions, he uses that silence as a mental gym, training his focus, discipline, and creativity. Most men trade freedom for fleeting validation, but the Sigma refuses cheap deals. This isn't loneliness, it's strategic isolation. In fact, research shows that people who spend time alone with purpose often have higher levels of creativity, emotional intelligence, and decision-making skills. The Sigma understands relationships are powerful. They can amplify your growth or completely drain you. For him, singlehood isn't a waiting room for something better to arrive. It's a training ground where he fortifies his boundaries, sharpens his vision, and aligns his life with his deeper values. While society measures a man's worth by his relationship status, the Sigma measures his worth by his freedom, his ability to live on his own terms. And to truly grasp why singlehood gives him power, you'd have to step into his world, a place where every choice is intentional, every friendship is earned, and every day alone is a step closer to becoming the strongest version of himself. In his eyes, solitude isn't the absence of love, it's the presence of control over his destiny. Number one, immune to society's pressure. The world runs on attachment like it's some universal law. From childhood, we're fed the idea that we're incomplete unless we find someone to complete us. Movies, books, and even casual conversations reinforce this narrative, that happiness is a shared destination, never a solo journey. Social scientists point out that humans are inherently social creatures, hardwired for connection, which makes this belief feel almost biologically justified. But the Sigma male walks through this noise as if it's nothing more than background static. He understands that while human connection is valuable, it is not a prerequisite for wholeness. This mindset isn't born from arrogance or an inability to connect. It's the result of a deep, almost philosophical conviction that personal fulfillment must be cultivated from within. History is full of individuals who thrived in solitude. Nikola Tesla chose his work over conventional relationships. Leonardo da Vinci's mind roamed freely without being tied to domestic life. And countless explorers, inventors, and thinkers spent years alone in pursuit of their calling. The Sigma male draws from this same well of self-reliance, seeing attachment not as a lifeline, but as an optional companion to his journey. He knows that attaching too heavily can cloud judgment, weaken independence, and even derail one's mission. Psychologists have studied how constant social validation can create dependency loops where self-worth is measured by the approval of others, a trap the Sigma avoids like a seasoned traveler sidestepping quicksand. This doesn't mean he's incapable of love or relationships. Rather, he enters them without the desperation to fill an inner void. If he chooses a partner, it's from a position of abundance, not lack. This detachment gives him an almost magnetic aura. He doesn't chase, and yet people find themselves drawn to his quiet self-possession. In a world where most are scrambling for validation, the Sigma's refusal to conform makes him stand out even more. He listens to the world's endless chatter about needing someone, nods politely, and keeps walking. His fulfillment comes from mastering his craft, exploring his passions, and living in alignment with his values. If companionship joins him on the path, it's welcome, but if not, the journey remains whole, undiminished, and entirely his own. That's the power of being untouched by the noise. Number two, resists engineered dependency. Media and marketing have perfected the art of selling not just products, but emotions. They thrive on human vulnerability, on that subtle sense of lack that whispers, "You're not enough until you have this." Psychologists call it the hedonic treadmill, a cycle where people chase temporary satisfaction only to find themselves craving more. This cycle works best on those who need constant validation, approval, and belonging. But here's where the Sigma male throws a wrench into the machine. His emotional detachment short-circuits the system. He doesn't buy into the idea that identity must be purchased or that happiness is sold in neatly packaged boxes. For him, freedom is the highest currency, not money, not popularity, not even comfort, if that comfort comes at the cost of his autonomy. History shows that many great innovators, thinkers, and leaders valued this same principle. From Diogenes, the ancient Greek philosopher who rejected societal norms, to Henry David Thoreau, who wrote Walden in Solitude, those who refused to conform have often been the ones who saw reality most clearly. The Sigma understands that joining in often means losing something more valuable than the group offers: time, energy, and independence. When society says join us, he runs a silent calculation: the benefits versus the price to his self-direction. More often than not, that cost is simply too high. This is not arrogance, it's mathematics. The cost of surrendering your own compass for someone else's map is rarely worth the journey, and while the majority follow trends to feel safe and accepted, the Sigma is content to stand at the edge, observing, understanding, and choosing only what aligns with his purpose. In a culture where distraction is the norm and individuality is often repackaged into marketable personal brands, his detachment is both rebellion and protection. He isn't anti-social, he's anti-manipulation. He knows that every invitation, every advertisement, every social pressure carries an unspoken trade. We'll give you comfort if you give us control, and for him that's a deal not worth making. The result? A life that may look unconventional from the outside but feels deeply authentic from within. A life where freedom is not just a philosophy but the non-negotiable foundation of every decision. Number 3, razor-sharp focus. A Sigma male understands something many overlook. The wrong partner doesn't just cause emotional turbulence, it drains mental bandwidth, the very fuel that powers his growth. Every conversation laced with manipulation, every unnecessary argument, and every toxic cycle chips away at the focus he could be using to sharpen his skills, strengthen his body, build wealth, or expand his wisdom. Psychology calls this cognitive load, the finite capacity our minds have for processing information and making decisions. If a relationship is constantly demanding emotional firefighting, there's less space for strategic thinking, creativity, and self-improvement. History shows that great minds, from Nikola Tesla to Isaac Newton, often guarded their solitude fiercely, avoiding entanglements that could divert them from their purpose. For the Sigma, distraction isn't harmless background noise, it's the enemy of power. He knows that mastery in any field, whether it's business, art, combat, or personal development, requires deep, sustained focus. Neuroscience backs this up. Deliberate practice and flow states, the conditions in which humans perform at their best, demand undivided attention. Even a few percentage points of mental diversion over time can compound into massive skill gaps. This is why the Sigma treats his mind like prime real estate. Only the most valuable tenants get space. He doesn't see relationships as inherently bad. In fact, the right partner can amplify his mission. But he refuses to pay the hidden tax of emotional chaos because he knows that power, true power, comes from controlling his time, his energy, and his thoughts. Like a disciplined warrior sharpening his blade daily, he invests his mental bandwidth where the returns are exponential, mastering his craft, growing his influence, and building a life that cannot be shaken by external noise. To outsiders, this can look cold or detached, but to him, it's the purest form of self-respect. The Sigma understands that life is a finite resource, and to squander it on toxic distraction is to sabotage his own potential. In a world where attention is the new currency, he is wealthy. Not because he has more hours than anyone else, but because he refuses to spend them carelessly. He knows that a man who masters himself and his environment holds a power far greater than one who simply reacts to whatever and whoever crosses his path. Number 4, emotional sovereignty. He never outsources his happiness because he understands a truth many overlook. When you hand over the keys to your emotional state, you've surrendered the most precious form of freedom, your inner sovereignty. For him, happiness isn't a gift to be granted by others. It's a fortress he builds brick by brick, day after day with habits, discipline, and self-awareness as his mortar. Every day he spends single isn't a countdown clock to loneliness, but a construction project. He's laying strong foundations of self-respect, emotional intelligence, and resilience. Psychology backs this up. Research shows that those with a strong internal locus of control, meaning they believe they are responsible for their own outcomes, tend to be happier, healthier, and more successful. His moods aren't left vulnerable to someone else's bad day or passing opinion, and his peace isn't a fragile glass that shatters when life gets noisy. He guards it like a medieval castle against invaders because he knows that once it's gone, the world becomes his master. Respect, too, is non-negotiable. He doesn't chase it, he cultivates it. And here's where many misinterpret him: his silence. To the untrained eye, his quietness may look like passivity, retreat, or even weakness, but in reality, it's a calculated discipline. Silence is where the mind recalibrates, strategizes, and sharpens its edge. Neuroscience tells us that moments of intentional quiet can boost creativity, lower stress hormones, and even regenerate brain cells in the hippocampus, the part of the brain tied to learning and memory. So, when he withdraws into his thoughts, he's not avoiding the battle, he's training for it. He understands what Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, once wrote: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." For him, life isn't about controlling the uncontrollable, but mastering the only real estate he can own forever: his inner world. Outsourcing happiness means gambling with your peace, and he's no gambler. The fortress he builds isn't just for himself. It's for the life he intends to lead, unshaken by storms, unbroken by losses, and unmoved by the noise of the crowd. While others spend their energy reacting to every flicker of external change, he invests in the quiet, unglamorous work of building himself into someone so steady, no one else's chaos can touch him. Number 5, chooses connections, never chases them. Others scatter their attention like confetti at a parade, bright, flashy, but easily carried away by the wind. The Sigma male, however, is a strategist of focus, a man who knows that attention is the most valuable currency in the modern world. In an age of endless notifications, quick dopamine hits, and the constant pressure to be everywhere at once, the Sigma's refusal to participate in this chaos isn't just a personality quirk, it's a survival strategy. Neuroscientists have shown that the human brain can only truly focus on one task at a time, and every distraction can cost up to 23 minutes to regain deep concentration. This is why the Sigma treats his attention like a high-security vault. If a project, conversation, or relationship doesn't align with his core values, he has no hesitation in walking away. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. He understands that saying yes to something meaningless is saying no to what truly matters. Psychologists call this selective attention, but the Sigma elevates it into an art form. He's not just filtering noise, he's curating his reality. This often confuses others, who see his quiet withdrawal as disinterest or aloofness, when in fact it's a calculated investment of his energy into things that yield real growth. And here's the fascinating twist. This selectivity often gives him an edge in both personal and professional life. While others chase every shiny opportunity, burning out in the process, the Sigma builds depth in fewer but more meaningful pursuits. Over time, this focused approach compounds like interest in a bank account, leading to expertise, self-mastery, and influence that others can't match. The truth is, walking away is a skill. It requires self-awareness to know your values, discipline to resist distractions, and courage to let go of things that promise quick gratification but offer no lasting worth. The Sigma male doesn't fear missing out. He fears wasting time on what doesn't matter. And in a world where attention is constantly under siege, this ability to filter, focus, and fiercely protect his mental space is not just rare, it's revolutionary. His life is proof that focus is freedom, and that walking away from the wrong thing is often the fastest path to the right one. Number 6, harder to manipulate. To control a man, you must first make him need you, but here lies the riddle the world can't solve. The Sigma needs no one. In a society built on social debts, hidden agendas, and emotional strings, most people's lives are like tangled webs of favors owed, approval sought, and comfort borrowed. These invisible ties create leverage, the unspoken power someone holds over you because they have something you think you can't live without. Throughout history, control has rarely been about brute force, it's been about dependence. In politics, kings controlled nobles through land grants, employers control workers through wages, and in relationships, manipulation thrives. When one person convinces another that their happiness, status, or future hinges on staying in their orbit. The Sigma, however, dismantles this system before it can even start. He deliberately avoids blind spots, the emotional and psychological vulnerabilities others can exploit, and he never accrues emotional debts, meaning he doesn't engage in transactional relationships where kindness is a currency with strings attached. By refusing to let anyone hold leverage over him, he maintains a level of autonomy that feels almost alien in our hyper-connected, approval-addicted age. This doesn't mean he's antisocial or incapable of love, rather his connections are chosen, not needed. He enters relationships out of genuine interest, not because he requires validation, resources, or a safety net. This makes manipulation nearly impossible because there's nothing to threaten, no essential lifeline to cut. Psychologists often point out that the healthiest form of attachment is secure independence, where one can bond deeply without losing personal identity or self-sufficiency, something the Sigma embodies almost effortlessly. In an era where people are conditioned to measure worth through likes, follows, and constant reassurance, the Sigma's stance is not just rare, it's unsettling to those who rely on others' needs to feel powerful. They can't figure out how to hook him because he swims outside the net. By needing nothing external to define him, he operates on a plane where control tactics collapse on impact. The irony is that this independence makes him even more magnetic. People are drawn to those they cannot control, even if they don't admit it. And that perhaps is the Sigma's quietest, sharpest power. Freedom disguised as mystery, and mystery that can't be bought. Number 7, value compounds over time. While most people spend years entangled in relationships, friendships, or social expectations that drain their energy and distract them from their true potential, the Sigma male takes a radically different approach. He invests in himself. He understands that personal growth, discipline, and self-mastery are compounding assets that no one can take away. While the average person is busy seeking validation or approval, the Sigma focuses on building skills, knowledge, and experiences that create long-term leverage in life. This isn't just theory. Studies in psychology and behavioral economics show that individuals who prioritize self-improvement over social conformity tend to achieve higher levels of competence, confidence, and financial independence. By dedicating time to learning, cultivating emotional intelligence, and maintaining physical and mental discipline, the Sigma accumulates advantages quietly but powerfully. Wealth often follows, not as a result of luck, but as a byproduct of strategic thinking and consistent effort. Depth emerges naturally because he doesn't rush relationships or succumb to superficial distractions. Instead, he develops a rich inner world capable of insight, empathy, and creative problem-solving. Discipline becomes his signature, visible in how he manages time, energy, and focus with precision, turning everyday actions into milestones toward mastery. While society pressures the average person to conform, to chase fleeting desires or relational comfort, the Sigma understands that freedom and security are built, not begged for. By the time others realize they've been trapped in patterns that limit their potential, the Sigma has already carved a path few even imagined. He doesn't compete for attention. He builds empires internally and externally, leaving a quiet, undeniable mark on the world. In essence, the Sigma's power lies in foresight, patience, and self-investment, proving that the most extraordinary successes are reserved not for those who follow the crowd, but for those who first conquer themselves. Number 8, legacy without compromise. The longer a Sigma male remains single, the more focused and refined his purpose becomes. Unlike the average man who often seeks validation or comfort in relationships, a Sigma sees solitude not as loneliness but as an essential instrument for growth. Time alone becomes a crucible, sharpening his mind, honing his skills, and clarifying his vision. Each passing day without distraction allows him to pursue projects, ideas, and goals with relentless precision. History is full of individuals who thrived in solitude. Think Nikola Tesla, who spent years in isolation to perfect his inventions, or Henry David Thoreau, who retreated to Walden Pond to discover profound truths about life and self-reliance. These men exemplify how deliberate isolation can cultivate originality, creativity, and clarity of purpose. For a Sigma, the absence of external noise prevents dilution of his mission. He doesn't chase trends or conform to societal expectations. Instead, he carves his own path, leaving marks that are authentic and lasting. His achievements are not motivated by praise or approval, but by a deeper drive to create, innovate, and influence. Solitude is not a pause in his life. It is the engine of his progress. The Sigma's single state becomes a laboratory for self-discovery, experimentation, and mastery. By choosing focus over fleeting attachments, he accumulates experiences, wisdom, and skills that cannot be learned in the chaos of conformity. In essence, each day spent alone strengthens his ability to leave a unique imprint on the world, proving that true impact comes not from blending in, but from daring to stand apart and build something that is entirely his own. The Sigma male doesn't avoid relationships out of fear, but out of self-respect, understanding that the wrong connection can derail his path. Each period of solitude strengthens his foundation, building resilience and clarity. When he finally allows someone in, it's not from need, but because they can match his pace without holding him back. In a culture obsessed with instant gratification, his patience is a quiet rebellion, his singlehood a reservoir of untapped potential, waiting for the perfect moment to unfold.